Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the NRG 10K here. I'm here with Devin. We're here for the finals, and here's what's happening. So, the players have agreed to a split of some things. So, they have split the cash, and both teams are taking the money and even split both ways. The team of Connor has won the event, technically speaking. They get the NRG points and the DreamHack invite. But here's the sticking point, Devin. And I know Connor Mullaly is a big part of this. The hardware could not be just, they couldn't figure it out. One team wasn't willing to take $50 more, nothing. We have to play for trophies. Someone has to go home with a trophy on their mantle. So we're here to bring you those matches right now for the finals. The winners get the trophies. So congratulations to Raja and Adam and Connor for getting the NRG points. Raja and Adam, huge gaps like we talked about right before the semifinals about 9 years ago. Now they are tight in the leaderboard loose race. Raja's probably in a great position for season 3. We'll have to see that updated graphic tomorrow. But, Devin, what do you think about this? We're going to start with modern matchup. It's going to be blue-white control versus breach. Who are you feeling favored? What do you think is going to happen?
Well, I'm all for playing for the trophy. I think that is a very important part of the winning the tournament, getting the actual physical trophy, sticking it right on the mantle is pretty nice. So we're gonna have 3 matches here. We're gonna have a mono green mirror in Pioneer. We have Painter versus 4-color Snow in Legacy, and we're gonna be starting with, as Mason pointed out, Breach versus blue white control in the hands of Raja. Now I would typically say that I want to believe that the breach deck is slightly ahead in this matchup because you have access to a lot of like potent threats that aren't the easiest for Raja to deal with, specifically Urza's Saga, especially in a game 1 situation. So you could see the Jeskai Breach player prioritize that. And then also, you just kind of trade off resources, and then if you ever resolve a breach like on turn, 9 or 10, that resolving that breach is probably worth another, if it's not killing you immediately, it's probably worth at least 5, 6, 7 cards. So I want to say that breach is ahead in this matchup, but
let's head on
take
down
a
to
look
the feature match area and find out who's going to be taking home the trophy as our modern players are ready to play. Looks like they have already resolved mulligans, and we got the trophy on the table to see what they're playing for. Those players really cannot let go of the trophy. By the way, Benjamin's team here is the one we watched in top 8 to play, and worth noting, this breach deck does have Hall of Generosity in it, which is very important against the control deck because it allows you to loop the enchantments for forever. And that could be a card that comes up if this game goes a long way. Regardless, start off just lantern both players in the pass.
Yeah. Now, one thing that we do want to point out as we take a quick look at Raja's deck list here, and you had mentioned this during the break, Raja has 2 copies in the main deck of Chalice the Void, and that is a very powerful card in this matchup because it does stop the combo from happening. You just tell Chalice on 0, and the Moxen / Mishra's Baubles never end up resolving, so you can't sacrifice them to the grinding station. So that is a powerful tool that Raja has access to that maybe some of the other control decks don't. Mm-hmm. So we'll have to see if how important of a role that plays.
100%. Also, if Raja's used a bunch of counter spells, we might see a Chalice on 2 just to make sure there aren't any value breaches. So a lot of different plays that Raja has available to him. And we have a grinding station. We might see a slam, or we might dash a little Ragavan. Could also hardcast Ragavan.
Yeah, it's interesting here because you have, I think I saw a Breach, a Station, and a Ragavan in a Mox Amber. So you almost want to keep the Ragavan in play so that next turn you can go land 3, Mox Amber, 4 mana, Station, Breach, and if Raja doesn't have a counterspell, we're done.
Yep. Yeah, and Raja, fainting having actual counterspell has subtlety here, so it is a soft counter for the Ragavan. But I have to imagine with this Ragavan just being hard cast, we're not going to see Raja discard one of these Archmage's charms.
Right. Now, we see Benjamin does have a Mox Amber and a grinding station, so weighing the options of is it worth going, casting the Mox Amber, playing out the grinding station this turn, exposing it to something like a prismatic ending. The upside of that play is you get the grinding station in play around Archmage's Charm. So that is something to worth considering. Now, obviously, Raja could just steal the Ragavan anyways.
Yeah. Also, it's going to grow those constructs. We have the Urza Saga on 1. There are no spreading seeds from this deck from Raja. So Benjamin might just get a couple constructs and take over the game. Now, there are Archmage's Charms that can steal the construct tokens, but if they're stealing tokens, they're not countering spells.
Right. I took a look at Raja's hand. I think there's 3 copies of Archmage's Charm. Is that correct? Yeah, I think there's 3 charms, a subtlety, And I think
Leyline Binding.
lands. Get a binding? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Which we can't cast for 3 mana.
Ho, my Ragavan.
Yeah, heads up play from Raja doing it main phase because there's the Mox Amber, so doesn't want to give Benjamin the extra mana. So maybe Benjamin doesn't have a land to be able to fire off those sagas, because I imagine if there's a land, that's probably what we're going to see Benjamin do over the next couple of turns here. Although he could go towards something like a Fable as well.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting if he values, short-term games versus long-term here. You can obviously pass the turn. Looks like that's what we're doing, but yeah, you could have slammed the Fable in the clear there if you had wanted to. I think I kind of like staying with this longer. Despite being a combo deck, you have a lot of grind to the grinding station combo deck.
Yeah, no pun intended, right?
I'm sorry, but there was a pun? Who punned?
Somebody punted?
Yeah. Oh god, I feel that way. Should have ordered my food before the final started. That was on me. Anyways, we have a Windswept Teeth coming down here, it seems. And now we do have Subtlety up, which low-key matters. Hardcasting that card can be a pretty big swing, even with the cheap creatures out of the Jeskai Breach deck, and create a clock. And Raja does need to kind of kill Benjamin.
Yeah, the one thing about these Archmage's charms is you could see hypothetically something like attack with Ragavan, token gets made, and you charm a token. It looks like Raja, values being able to hold up counter magic, because if you do that and Benjamin has something like a breach, then we could just be done here. So makes sense from that Raja doesn't want to kind of commit that, but something to consider for sure.
And yep. Oh, also worth mentioning, we didn't really talk about this before, but one of the upsides of playing the Grape Shot in this version of the Breach deck instead of Thassa's Oracle is you get Dragantha, a companion, which in this matchup kind of awkward because it weirdly could matter, because if you just run them out of things, you present so many threats recursively, it could come up where having a 5/5 kind of matters. Looks like there's an activation of the Urza Saga contract, but before it goes and searches our deck, Raja's going to fetch up and maybe do something here.
Yeah, doesn't want to get Pithing Needles, most likely.
Yeah, makes sense. No reason to just,
Let's take a look at pull up the Breach deck list here. Just I want to see what we're looking for here with Saga. So we could get Amber, probably just end up getting a Bauble, although maybe going towards the Springleaf Charm if you want to maybe a little bit of a boost in mid. Oh, that's true. That is a good point.
Yeah, and now suddenly it's my Ragavan again.
This is why Urza Saga is so, like you mentioned this earlier, we've seen a lot of control of Spreading Seas, because the card Urza Saga is so hard for a blue-white control deck to. These construct tokens require multiple answers from Raja, and it's really hard for Raja to kind of. Well, not one of those things where you can just let it sit around. Like, these things are 5/5s.
Yeah,
They're going to
Raja
kill
has
you.
a single dress down, and that's it. And with the Hall of Generosity, a lot of constructs this game. And it looks like.
Oh, that is true. Yeah, there is one.
So it is going to be hard. It looks like we might be getting an Archmage's Charm.
I gotta read this card. Raja's playing one copy of Broker's Charm. You know what that one does?
Obviously, but
it's a Bant instant. You can one of 3 modes. Your creature gets +1/+1 until end of turn. Draw 2 or destroy an enchantment. One copy in Raja's deck list. So that could, maybe blow up a.
looks like we're gonna get Leyline the Void. Not Leyline. There's just a void in it. But looks like, this is also the hard part too. Mess up anything here, and you, especially when you reach the finals, right? Like, you've agreed to play for the hardware. If you're gonna stay, players on both teams are probably playing in tomorrow's event, so they got more magic ahead of them. So you gotta win the hardware if you're gonna stay.
One good The one good thing about playing for the hardware, we get an extra hour of sleep tonight. So
That's true. Yeah, it is daylight savings time. So hey, if you're watching this and you live in the North America, you go back an hour this week. So get that extra hour of sleep. I'm gonna use that extra hour of sleep to make up for the fact of getting up a little early tomorrow.
same.
Ooh. Draw 2 from the Archmage's Charm. No fear about the 5/5. Makes me wonder if Raja is just trying to find something like Dress Down or Verdict and kind of maximize that card now. Or maybe it's just light on lands.
Yeah, I think Raja recognizes that like trying to just use all of his cards as one for one answers. You're just the Breach deck generates so much advantage between Urza Saga and Breach and Emery and Hall of Heliod's Generosity that Raja just can't fight that kind of game, you know. So it's like it makes sense that he's just kind of trying to dig for that copy of Dress Down. But you know, we see the Hall in there's also the Fable too. Like I find it really hard that I find it hard to believe that Benjamin is gonna let this one slip away.
Yeah, the Hall of Generosity really makes it where it's like if that was just like, I don't know, a fetch land or whatever, then I could be like, okay, Roger's starting to pull ahead, he can find a verdict, we can win this. But with the Hall, we can just get Saga forever, and then eventually we can get Breaches forever. And so it's putting you in a really hot spot for Raja. So Raja's gonna have to hope that Connor continues to win the Mono Green Mirror, most likely. Looks like we're having some tanking about if we should actually dash this Ragavan or not. It is pretty good if you dash it. It's a little 10 ball. You put Raja to 3.
You do get the mana back from the Amber too.
Yep.
So you could even see something like Dash Ragavan, play the land, Dash Ragavan, and also post combat play Fable.
Yeah, you might maybe pre-combat the Fable just to play around Solitude, because that might be what part of the worry is.
True.
Playing on the pitch elementals is very hard. We are just going to see a nice little counterspell here from Raja on that Ragavan. Showing a lot of respect for that card. And battling in for 8 here.
8 ball. Raja can't really afford to take this. Kind of have to fire out the charm here.
Yeah, I'll be surprised if we don't fire up. I'm surprised. Color me. Color me surprised.
Probably going towards the binding, right?
Sure.
Yeah, looks like binding.
That makes sense. Okay. So we're only going to take 3 as well because there is an artifact being lost.
And honestly, the thing about this binding, it doesn't look great, but if Raja can find something like a Teferi Time Raveler to bounce the binding, that answers the second construct, and then you help. Well, I guess you would probably just Teferi bounce the construct, but then you also like just having the binding not on a creature is really good for those situations where you can eventually like Teferi pick it up and then actually kill something else. So that is something that Raja does have.
100%. And we drew the Hero of Dominaria for Raja, which is a big one.
That is good. So you can go uptick, play a land, leave up 3 for the charm. Oh no, dude. Okay, Raj does have a land. I was gonna say, don't tell me you missed a land drop. So yeah, we can hold up the charm here, which is not a bad spot for sure.
Yep. And we get the untap, and we might see Benjamin here do a little upkeep, activate Hall of Generosity. It looks like we're just gonna take the natty draw step. We don't need to put an Urza Saga on top of our deck just yet. Probably trying to look for some way to actually answer the Teferi, or maybe just wanting to develop this Teferi Time Ravel of our own.
Yeah, and then you could also see something like maybe go Teferi, uptick. Well, actually, you have to Ragavan. Oh no, you haven't played a land yet, so you can go maybe Teferi first, uptick to make sure that the Ragavan gets through, and then land dash Ragavan.
Yeah, it's interesting.
That.
It's really hard, right? Because if you dash Ragavan, then you're threatening to kill the Teferi, so Raja will counter if he can. But if you play Teferi, Raja has to counter, which means you might get to kill the Teferi. So it's a really tricky spot there.
Right.
And
now I'm curious real quick. I just want to take a look at the deck list. There's 2 steam vents in play. Okay, there's a Sacred Foundry. I wanted to make sure we had a fetchable red source because that Mox isn't tapped for red right now. But...
Yeah, it looks like we are going to probably go. I imagine we're going to set up Sacred Foundry as well, too, because even though we have. Oh, we're just going to grab Mountain? Okay.
Oh, yeah, there's some Mountain in the deck. Okay.
Yeah, I thought you would want Sacred Foundry as well just to activate the Hall, but maybe. I guess your deck doesn't play that many white cards, so it's not going to come up too much.
Yeah, so it looks like you said, we're probably going to go dash Ragavan, hit Teferi for 5, most likely.
Well, there's a subtlety from Raja, so we could see pitch. Yeah, Raja's going to protect the Teferi.
Yeah, recognizes that this Teferi is like kind of the thing that's holding him in this game. So I definitely like that play from Raja. Teferi's gonna the number one thing in tech support is you just did you turn it off and turn it back on?
Mm-hmm. They tried that with modern. They're like, hey, if we like undo the Luris, will that be better? And they're like, okay, what about Yorion? And I think it has worked
Yeah.
with Yorion. I think it's great right now. You know,
Oh, the stream is off right now. Okay. I
oh, the
gotcha.
stream is off, like off.
I think so. Everybody's saying F's in chat, so
Oh yeah, it's not on. Oh,
oh, I see some movement. I see some 480p movement. It's a good
catching up.
start. Are we back? We might be back.
All right, I think.
Twitch chat confirms we are back. All right, perfect. Thank you for your patience. I appreciate you. And what did we miss? We missed some Teferi's still in play. We missed a lot. There's Teferi Time Raveler too. But let's try and get you back up to speed. So it looks like Raja went untap, uptick Teferi, played a second Teferi, downticked on the construct, and then we are at the point where Benjamin drew the Ragavan, dashed it, and so you didn't miss too much.
Yeah, and it looks like now we're deciding if we want to Unholy Heat or Fable. And with the Teferi 3 in play, you also might just draw something you want to play here. Because, if you drew like a Prismatic Ending, you'd like to use that and save the Unholy Heat. Now, we have unlocked Fable, the Mirrorbreaker, and Unholy Heat. Looks like we're going to use Unholy Heat first on the Teferi Time Raveler. We do have Delirium. Sorry, Teferi Hero Dominaria.
Yeah, love this. Love this. Because if Raja has a counterspell, you're kind of putting him in the squeeze. It's like Raja almost feels forced to fight over this Teferi Hero of Dominaria, I think, at least if I'm in Raja's seat. And then, worst case scenario, it's like, okay, well, then I'll just resolve Fable, and it's not that bad. And with Raja now at 3, because I believe that Ragavan connected, maybe, I can't tell, I don't know if the 5 is the updated life total, but yeah, that Fable potentially representing lethal if Raja is at 3.
Yeah, and I believe most of the breach decks play some number of bolts. So Raja might be thinking like, oh, if I just die to a bolt here, can I really afford to have that happen to me?
Looks like no bolts, but one Galv Blast and one Grape
Okay,
Shot.
Galv Blast, the super bolt, and it's on. We have the treasure.
Yeah, and even something like the Grape Shot, that could if Raja is in fact at 3, or even if not, you could like dash Ragavan, maybe play a spell after that, and then maybe the Grape Shot goes upstairs. So yeah, a lot of stuff that Raja could
And
potentially lose
important to note, Aren has beat Connor in the mono green mirror, broke serve. Connor's whole team here, everyone on the left, is on the play because they are our first seed coming into top 8. And winning the mono green mirror when you're on the draw is super pivotal to winning the match. That means you will for sure get to be on the play for at least game 3.
Yeah, that is something you don't see very often. Mono green winning on the draw in the mirrors. So, yeah, shoutouts to Aren for doing that. And I believe our legacy match is still in game 1. I know you mentioned during the break that you thought the legacy match was going to go pretty long, and looks like you're probably correct here.
Yeah, I think there's just a lot of things. There's like a lot of time for Saralyn to build up her game plan and execute on it. And the 4-color Snowko deck doesn't kill very quickly unless it finds Mitskimbu or earlier row. So, but Raja here, apparently, I'm getting a word from the commentator, the Lords on High, that Mitskimbu actually was just played. So the game might be getting wrapped up there a little sooner than we would have thought. But Raja is just kind of tanking. I mean, if you're Benjamin, you have to know that there's a counterspell now.
Oh yeah, for sure. Given the how long this Unholy Heat's been on the stack, right?
Yeah, we saw Raja Hollywood a little bit on turn 2 with counterspell. That's fine. Sometimes you got to act a little bit, but this is just like if you don't have the counterspell, what are you doing with your life? So Raja has the counterspell for sure, and is probably worried about something like Galvanic Blast. And boom,
Just
Fabled Mirror
letting
Breaker.
it go. Letting it. I'm very surprised that Raja's patience here, and I don't know if it's necessarily going to pay off because I think you'd rather have the Teferi in play than the Fable, being countered. But we'll have to see.
Yeah. Oh, big pickup. We have Odawara and Chalice the Void, so we might see a Chalice for 1 here just to stop the Ragavan.
Yeah, stop the Ragavan, stop the potential Galvanic Blast draw step. So actually not a terrible spot for Raja. Can pick up the Kahira, maybe go towards that next turn.
Mhm.
Not really in danger of dying, especially with the Chalice shutting off the Ragavan and the Galvanic Blast. Now, looks like we're going to see an upkeep top the Fable. I love that play. Absolutely love
Yeah,
that.
Hall Generosity really showing off there how strong it is. Also, by the way, what an insane sicko play. This is why Raja is the control player to be afraid of. Navigating this game perfectly to get in a position where now Raja is like, well, I can probably beat Galblast if I wait a little bit. And countering the Fable is obviously a little awkward with Hall Generosity in play, but to put Raja in a position to maybe grab it. And I think Raja just ripped Jace the Mind Sculptor. And
Well, okay
that
then.
one's
This
good against
now we got a
Topiates.
game.
Yeah. Fable will let Benjamin here loot away the Ragavan, so we are going to get rid of that dead card. But the Jace will also answer the Goblin Shaman, and that's a pretty good place to be.
Yeah, like you're saying, Raja has played this game extremely well. There's been a lot of decision points where, what do I fight over? What do I want to prioritize? And I think Raja has navigated this game basically flawlessly. And yeah, like you said, it's not a surprise to see Raja in the final series. As we talked about the back-to-back-to-back top eights, and we can definitely see why. Very kind of a master with this blue-white deck.
Yeah, if you're looking to get better at control, Raja Sulaiman is the player to go to. And we're going to see
Yeah,
an
watch
activation
this
of Fable.
match.
Yeah. And we put a Saga on top, have another Saga. Not the worst problem to have, especially with no spreading Caesars from Raja's deck. As we see a passing of the turn, and we are going to see some constructs get made. But in the meantime, Jace the Mind Sculptor gets to start activating. And while maybe not as good as it was when it first came out, still an incredibly powerful card.
Right, especially on this board where there's not a ton of pressure. Although the Saga can, eh, Raja is at 3, so he does have to be a little bit careful. Those constructs are going to be lethal once they start getting generated. And also, the one thing that Raja has to keep in mind is that Fable flipping, because the Fable can also essentially is going to represent a lethal attacker if the construct gets to. If Benjamin doesn't tap with the construct, because you can just copy a construct and then now you have 2 attackers. So has to be a little bit careful of that as well. Does have the prismatic ending to answer that, so doesn't have to answer it now because the Fable doesn't have haste, so can maybe just wait a turn to prismatic ending on the Fable token. But picked up a subtlety, a counter spell. Yeah, Raja kind of has everything he needs at this point.
100%. And it is kind of just like, okay, can I find the dress down? Can I find the verdict? We can use things like prismatic ending at instant speed with Teferi time ravel or tick up ability. So we do need to kind of make sure to go through the motions and everything, but we've kind of got things sort of low key unlocked. And we just need to avoid hitting a big land patch for a while. And with things like fetch lands, we're probably gonna be able to do that. There's a play another Urza Saga for turn here for Benjamin. And Adam, we talked about played a Minskin boot about 2 minutes ago, is now up a game. So things are getting a little tied up here. Adam's team getting one step closer to getting that trophy that they all want.
So what you're saying is that the win rate when you resolve Minskin Boo is 100%. Interesting.
That's how it works in the NRG series.
Card seems pretty powerful, but yeah, the second Saga does really help Benjamin here because we talked about that Raja has maybe a couple of answers for Saga tokens, like he can maybe chump block with a subtlety, maybe prismatic ending one here and there, has an Odawara, but the thing is if Benjamin gets to the point where he can make 2 tokens in the same turn, which he's going to be able to do this upcoming turn, say, end step, make a token, untap, make a token, and then make a token with the third one. That's 3 lethal creatures that Raja has to answer all of them. Has Teferi to answer 1, Jace to answer 1, the Odawara, but then with the Hall of Heliod's Generosity, just looping those sagas, maybe can eventually run. Basically, it's a race. It's like, will Raja run out of answers before the Jace gets the ultimate, right?
Yeah, and like you mentioned, that Leyline Binding now, we can unsummon it with our Teferi, keep the Teferi, and have another answer to a Saga, and move towards another card. So we might be seeing, Raja maybe has, I would guess, 3 turns at the current rate, which is a lot of time when you have Jace the Mind Sculptor brainstorming. Worth noting that Raja can only fetch 1 more time until Raja finds a Solitude, because down to 2 life. Oh, and
There's
found the Solitude. All right, nice. Well, that's going to help with the old fetch problem. We also have this Gigantha over here. If we ever decide that that's worth picking up, get a little Colossopede action. A little 5/5 for 5.
Yeah, I mean, I wonder if at that point it's probably just better to make a token activate Hall because the Hall's representing effectively a Giganta every turn with the Saga token, right?
Yeah. Yeah, maybe just have some left over on some weird turn with the activating, but I guess not with the way our mana lines up. Look, oh, interesting. We're shrinking the construct in order to get some mill action. Oh, so if we found Breach with Hall, we could put it on top. I see.
One
Okay.
thing One thing I just thought about, I wonder what Raja's deck size looks like because with this grinding station in play and making artifacts every single turn, that's got to be a realistic. Like, look how many cards Raja's gone through at this point, right?
Yeah, Raj has gone through probably, let's say, 25 cards between lands, cards in hand, and graveyard. So 35. So yeah, if this game like treads water for a little bit, then maybe Benjamin can switch to the old the way the way Garfield intended for grinding station and get the old actual mills going.
Yeah, and that's kind of a really the cool thing for Benjamin here is like because you're attacking him on two fronts, you're forcing Raja to answer all of these construct tokens, and every time Raja does answer a construct token, that's three more cards from Raja's deck, right? And Raja doesn't have a choice; he has to use his removal spells on these tokens because every single one of them is a lethal attacker.
Mhm.
So it doesn't really have the luxury of potentially maybe being able to answer the station. So yeah, kind of putting Raja in the squeeze
Yeah,
here.
and we are gonna see we pop the bobble net to get some information, but I think we forgot about Solitude because Solitude can now actually eat both in combat. If Benjamin isn't going to activate the Urge Saga. Now, Benjamin might just activate it and that won't be a problem, but for sure the attacking one is going to get answered here by the Solitude. And the Solitude also presents a life linking threat as well. Looks like we might lead on Binding and maybe Solitude in the end step.
Interesting. I wonder if this binding is going after the station. Now it looks like it's not because I figured maybe you go like binding the station and then solitude the
Oh,
token,
sure.
but maybe Russia doesn't feel like has the luxury of answering the station.
Yeah, I think Raj's plan is just to hope to counter Underworld Breach and then kill with this Solitude before that matters. But
Yeah,
maybe,
that's Benjamin's only at 13, so that is that's definitely on the table as well.
yeah, and we have Kahira too in Exile, so like if we flood out a little bit, maybe we'll do that. And now that we have this extra life, we can consider fetching. We know what our top card is, and so does Benjamin, so we can gain a little bit of hidden information by doing this. And I think our top card was like a land anyways, so it's probably not that good. Yeah, Raj's deck does look kind of small.
It's yeah, we got to be at least more than halfway through, I think.
Yeah, I wonder. Who's to say? But we do have Counterspell and Subtlety in hand, so these Urza Sagas can go for forever. But anything else we try to cast is going to have some problems.
Yeah, as you talked about, the life buff are very, very relevant here too, because it's actually getting to a point where Raja might be able to survive a one token hit, right? Because if you go end step, make a token, untap, well, not really, make a second token, then the Urza Saga represents a fifth artifact, so still probably can't survive a hit. Although the Solitude now has 4 power, so you go to 6, maybe you can go to 1. I mean, obviously it doesn't want to go to 1, but
Yeah. And worth noting, Solitude now has Vigilance, so it gets to get in here for 4. And you probably, have to activate this Saga and trade with the Solitude just so that you don't, Raja doesn't gain so much life that long term it's a problem.
yep. And we do see the block here, so wonder if Raja had the option to.
Oh, we're ley
Interesting.
line binding the grinding station, which means now the construct isn't big enough to kill.
Oh, yeah, that's pretty good. So that's actually a really good sequence for Raja because we just talked about how he kind of wanted to answer the station. Now you get to enter the station and also kill the Saga token. So really, really good heads up play for Raja there.
Agreed. And that kind of feels like the moment, the swing factor, because we're about to have a turn cycle where there are no Ursa Sagas being activated at all.
One right.
I
Oh,
was
because
for the
next turn, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And then we have to put it on top either in our upkeep or wait a little bit, and we have Fabled Mirror Breaker in hand. Now,
Wow.
Benjamin doesn't know that Raja has a counterspell in hand, but We
This
know.
is the classic commentator curse. I said maybe what five turns ago. I talked about how I didn't really see Raja coming back in this game, and Raja has just navigated this game so flawlessly, so perfectly. Just every
Mhm.
single turn, like just using the best answer, making sure. And, Raja did get a little lucky, drew the Jace when he needed to, drew the Teferi when he needed to, but he put himself in the position to draw those cards, and that's the thing that Raja is just going to make every decision correctly, and he's played this game so well.
100% agreed. Yeah, you have to put yourself in the position to get lucky, and no one wins a tournament without getting lucky. When someone says, "Oh, they got lucky to win," it's like, well, yeah, you play a bunch of Magic, you're gonna have to get lucky to win one of these big tournaments against these great players and these great teams. So, not a disclaimer, but we do see Underworld Breach get put on top, and that is the beginning of maybe breaching every single turn. Now, maybe this turn isn't the turn we actually go for it, but going forward, we might see just Castle Breach, Castle Breach, Castle Breach, and with Raja having an actual clock of 7 here on the board, that does matter because Benjamin's at 15, so there's 3 turns before Raja is going to, potentially lose to the breach.
Hypothetically, if Raja does not have a counterspell, are we done?
No, I think the way it works here is because we don't have an Emery or we can't cast Ragged
Oh,
Dance,
we're a mana
right?
short. Yep. Okay.
Yeah. Now, if there is an Emery in the graveyard, maybe got milled over with the activated grinding station and we missed it, then we could go for it because we'll have another artifact here. Um, but I think there is no Emery. If there is an Emery, we might see it.
1 mana. Oh yeah, mana floating. Okay, we're going for the breach. I think Raja does have a counterspell, so it's a moot point. But
Yep, and we got a counterspell here. We got some updates. Another Minskin boost slammed in Legacy, so that might be a bad sign for Saralyn if she can't find a way to paint her servant there. But going on here, we got a little bobble activation.
yeah, let's see if we can keep the dream alive of 100% win rate for Minskin Booze being cast.
Yep. And we drew another Mox Opal here for Benjamin. Kind of important when it comes to the turn of going off if we're having to spend so much mana on Hall of Generosity every turn.
Right. So I'm trying to think of how much mana do we need to get to. So hypothetically, if Ben upkeep activates the hall, 3 mana left over, that wouldn't quite be enough, right? Because you would go breach, then you'd have 2 min. You go 3 activate breach, then 1 mana left over. Cast the Emery. You have a Mox. I guess if you have a second Mox, then you can go float mana, second Mox, tap mana, play the station, and then you're good to go from there with the
Yeah,
Emery
I
in play.
agree. I wonder if Benjamin was supposed to grab Springleaf Drum last turn too, just to like have the artifact in play and have something that you can convert your Urza Saga tokens into mana if you decide to go that way. But Raja here, I believe, is
There's also something worth considering. Raja, okay, I didn't see. There's a Teferi in hand. Raja could, now I don't know if you want to do this, but you could Teferi bounce the Chalice and replay it on 0.
Mhm.
I don't know at this point in the game if it's better or to worse to have it on 1 versus 0. It's kind of close. But with Benjamin going for the breach every turn, I think maybe it's safer to put it on
Yeah, so I think
0.
what you do is because Raja has 2 Teferis, it's Teferi unsummon the Chalice, draw or whatever, and then Teferi unsummon on the Amber, and then you can put it on 0, and then there's no Ambers either. So that makes it harder for the like actual combo to go. And so Benjamin would have to assemble more pieces for the combo. And Raja, incredibly skilled control player. We talked about how perfectly he's navigated a lot of this. I am curious how skilled he is at knowing how the breach deck wins. Some players are very, very good at knowing how all the decks in the format works, and others kind of into things in the moment and figure it out. It looks like Raja is kind of checking here, and I would assume as someone, especially making it to the finals today, knows, at bare minimum, the basics of what it takes for breach to combo.
Right, and chat pointing out, I think Raja just might have the second Chalice rolled up in hand, so it doesn't even have to go through the Teferi. There's the Broker's
Mm.
Charm. Let's go. So maybe can save that as a disenchant for maybe a breach turn. But yeah, that one's just a sort of another layer of interaction here for Raja. But yeah, Raja kind of has a lot of options here. Putting back a deluge, interesting. This probably doesn't already has enough cards. So
Yeah. And slamming for 7 here. And, Raja does have subtlety for hand, so it is lethal on the next turn if Benjamin can't win. And we might just see Raja just put a chalice on 2.
And we have confirmed the 100% win rate for Minsk and Boo being cast. Adam Wasburn-Moses taking the match 2-0 over Mono Red Painter. So, yeah, Mullaly, Sulaiman, and Wasburn-Moses up a match.
Yeah, a huge get there. We still see that Connor versus Aren is going on in the mono green mirror. So that match is a very important one too. Connor needs to kind of tie things up there to keep them alive. But Roger's doing a good job of sort of getting ahead in this game. And we do see Fail the Mirror Breaker coming down here for Benjamin. And then under my we have Bobble coming down looking at the opponent thing. And we're checking out a mono green real quick. A lot
Oh,
going on there.
well, we're not missing a
Yeah.
ton.
I saw love letter cards in play. Who knows what they're doing? And yeah, it looks like lethal. So actually, send me back. Go back to Pioneer. I don't want to watch shuffling. I'd rather watch this. All right, I'll give you the board state. We got a Karn. We got a Kiora. We got a Boat. We got a Cavalier. We got some Wolf Willow Havens. That's for all for Aren. Looks like there might be an Astika's Chariot or something at the top. Maybe it's another Cavalier. I can't quite see. It's cut off a little bit. Meanwhile, for Connor, we have some love letter tokens. I'm going to assume that those are love struck beast tokens because they're love letter. Kiora, Oath of Nissa, Boat, Cavalier, Lovestruck Beast, Elvish Mystic, I think Lanor Elf at the bottom there, along with an Old Growth Troll in the lands for Mullaly. And a complicated board state with a lot of options open to Aren. And Aren just picked up the Cauldron, and that's probably pretty good. Now, there's no Nykthos to really capitalize on everything, but we're going to have to see here. Looks like we cast a Lovestruck Beast a little bit off camera and then triggered the draw trigger, and we have Nykthos.
Yeah, I think okay, I was gonna say the Cauldron picked it up, but I think that was just maybe we already had the Nykthos, so
Yeah, and that's
leave signaling to Connor. I have to imagine this is enough.
yeah. I mean, you only need 8 devotion along with the things pre-set up, and it looks like Aren has, from what I can tell, at least 7. But it's hard to know. I know there are some things off screen, so
Right.
looks like there's some out of shortcut. Maybe Connor's like, it is possible Connor's played this mono green deck a lot. Aren might not have the hard combo right now, and just legitimately might be like slow on it or whatever. And so Connor's like, yeah, do it. Like you don't have the devotion to. There's some other things being shown off screen. It looks like maybe there's like, hey, show me you didn't board in the Bank Buster and the other thing, so I know you can do it.
Yeah.
Either way, looks like we're just double checking. And Connor's extending the handshake. So Connor finally loses a mono green mirror. Feels like the first time in 10 years. But that means all eyes on Raja versus Benjamin. Raja up a game. And we do have the players sideboarding here. Looking at the open deck list, we got a hug here from Aren. Aren's like, I've done all that I can, Captain.
Worth noting, Connor lost both games on the play. That's insane to me.
Yeah, I mean, it is really like typically the play draw matters a lot in that matchup, but sometimes you just you storm and you don't hit the things and they do, and it didn't matter that you ahead a turn. Besides being able to draw means you're up a card, right? You get that draw for turn, and sometimes in your critical mass deck, that's all you need. Regardless, looks like we got some sideboarding action going on here. And Raja up a game in a matchup that I think is a little tricky, but Raja, an expert at his craft. Such a great control player. And Benjamin, no slouch on Breach 2, has won a bunch of games where we thought things were looking awful and has navigated all the way to the finals here.
Let's talk sideboards real quick while we have a second. I don't know if we can, probably can't get them on camera for you, but we'll just go over them real quick here. So Raja has a 1 Supreme Verdict, 1 Force Negation, 2 Wear Tear, 2 Aether Gust, a Dovin's Veto, a Hallowed Moonlight, a March of Otherworldly Light, 3 Veil of Summer, a Chalice, and a Dress Down. So if I'm Raja, I'm probably looking at the Wear Tears. I think those are pretty good. Probably looking at the March of Otherworldly Light. There's a lot of enchantments on Benjamin's side. The Chalice of the Void, and potentially the Dress Down to be able to fight over Urza Sagas. I don't know if we want to go towards something like Veil of Summer. There's not a ton of counter spells in Benjamin's deck, so.
Yeah, I imagine you're probably not going to do anything like that, but you're going to probably see the cards like Wear Tear come in just as nice answers to both like an artifact and Underworld Breach. But it can also blow up Urza Saga and things like that as well. What do we have for the Breach player?
So for Benjamin, we got a Gigantha Teferi, Time Raveler, 1 copy, 2 Prismatic Ending, 2 Wear Tear, 2 Mystical Dispute, 2 Aether Gust, 2 Spell Pierce, a Shadow Spear, a Soul Guide Lantern, and an Engineered Explosives. So give me that Teferi. That one's a slam dunk in this matchup. Mystical Dispute, Spell Pierce. Spell Pierce maybe a little less good if you expect the game to go super long, but I guess you could argue for the same for Dispute. But Dispute being able to answer planes or I guess not. Yeah, okay, never mind. I'm thinking of something else. But yeah, Dispute, Spell Pierce, and I think that's probably it.
So EE is a card that weirdly comes in some of these spots because EE works as a Mishra's Bauble or a 0-mana artifact for the combo and gets around Chalice of the Void. And since
Okay.
your Urza Saga can make 1 colorless, you can actually get around a Chalice for 0 as well. So we might see EE come in here as just like, yeah, like whatever. I don't need one of these cards. This gets around Chalice, and it's another combo enabler. It's the worst one, but it's one I can have. Looks like Raja's
Yeah,
kind of pulling through it.
blows up the Chalice too, which is pretty important.
Yeah. Yep. Big game there. And also you can put it on 3 for Teferi Time Raveler stuff, which is like small in this matchup, but it doesn't matter, you know. Like Raja not having the sort of setup is important. And with treasures, we could see an EE for 4 for something like Teferi, or even for Jace, or even 5 for Teferi. So a lot of different options available to Benjamin. One of the things that is really unique about this Jeskai Breach deck is it's such a reactive sideboard, and it's like, okay, well, which battles am I looking to fight? In an open deck list, it's a little easier to pick those battles.
Oh yeah, for sure. You know exactly how many copies of those specific sideboard cards that both players have access to. You know exactly what to play around. You always get those. You're always in these spots where you question yourself. Like there's like do I want to play around Spell Pierce, and you don't know how many copies they have, and it's like now having that information is just so much more beneficial. And like you were saying earlier, a lot of people going to the Atlanta RC. This is good practice because that is going to be open decklist as well. So there's a different kind of atmosphere when you play in an open decklist tournament. Just always knowing exactly how many cards to play around, what sideboard cards do I play around, especially when you're playing a graveyard based deck. Like what do they have? Ley lines? Do they have other graveyard hate? So on and so forth. So yeah, open decklist is definitely adds another layer to the
yeah.
to the
And worth mentioning, Connor is someone who has played a lot of the Breach deck. So Connor probably also has a good idea of what would come out from Benjamin. And typically, we talk about teammates and helping teammates down, you're leaking information. We talk about Raja maybe doesn't know. We don't know. Maybe Raja does, maybe Raja doesn't. But either way, can tap on Connor and be like, hey, can they go for it next turn? And Connor's played the deck enough to know yes or no, or it'd have to look like this. And having that sort of resource, even if Raja can do all that easily on his own, which I'm sure he's totally capable of, not having to use your brain power on that when it's about to be 10 o'clock at night, you've been playing Magic for 12 hours, that sort of thing matters. And when you're playing for the hardware like this, you want to give it all you got.
Oh yeah, for sure. So we get a little bit more shuffling here, but talk to me. Who do you think is does post board, does play draw? We looked at the sideboards. Who do you got in the post board games?
Theoretically, I'm a big fan of the Breach deck in this matchup, but it's really hard for me to root against Raja, especially in this. I think though I'm gonna go with Benjamin for the win. I think the matchup is good enough, and Benjamin has enough tools and really got so close to kind of maneuvering really well against Raja and did a great job of playing that game. And I'm just gonna go with Breach. What about you?
I think I'm with you. I mean, I took Breach for game one, and I thought Benjamin was in a commanding position, and really had all the tools that he was going to be able to need. And I even post board, Raja does gain a little bit, but Ben gets a little bit too. So I think I'm going to stick with Benjamin. I'm kind of with you. I just think that the combination of cheap threats in Ragavan and Emery, this like inevitable late game that Raja doesn't have an answer to with the Hall. Like if he ever draws the Hall and has enough mana to get going with that, which he did game one. But yeah, I think I'm with you too. I think I'm with the Breach deck.
Well, let's see what happens here. Now that Benjamin's mulliganing, I kind of want to take it the other side. Although I'll say this, I played a team 10K with Jesse Robkin, one of the Breach heads. And round one, she mulled a 4, and I just looked over on turn 3, she had the win. So the deck can mulligan well. When your deck can win on very low number of cards, your deck's kind of strong.
Yeah, mult the 4 win, but not playing Tybalt's Trickery. That's what I'm used to when I mult the 4. So.
Wow. Aspiring Spike ruining Pioneer. Oof. Yet he says he
Pretty
likes
much, yeah.
modern, yet he ruins Pioneer. I think he was just mad that Pioneer streams were taken away from modern before the RC. So he just went in there, just caused a little mayhem, and he's like, all right, back to the cool stuff. You know?
Yeah.
A saboteur, if you would.
And then everybody had to play against, Tip-Off Trickery for 3 days.
I just didn't play Pioneer, baby. I gave up. No shot. And it looks like we're going to put back a Wear Tear and keep a Bauble of Dispute, and I think a couple lands.
Disputes did come in, which we kind of expected. Good at fighting over Teferis and Archmage's Charms. And yes, they get a little bit, they are a little sketchy if the game goes super long, but, as long as you can, you can almost always convert them in a meaningful way.
Yep. Oh, it looks like there's maybe some. I'm going to actually put back this Mox Amber and keep this Bauble. I kind of like that. Like, you want the Amber eventually, but you kind of want other cards early. So just keep the Bauble. And if you have a fetch land too, you make a little scry action. So we're going to Bauble ourselves, figure out if we want to fetch or not. It looks like we're just going to
keep it.
Yep. And we're going to draw from the Bauble trigger.
Too many baubles.
Nice. Raja's got a card. Raja had a Castle Vantress, the most powerful land in all of Modern. Let's say I know Raja's good. He registered 59 good cards in Castle Vantress, and he was able to still win.
Looks like by Castle Vantress, you mean Lonely Sandbar, then yeah, I'm with you.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. Really a card you're allowed to put in your deck. One day Society will move past Castle Vantress, but today is not that day. And like I said, Raja's the goat at control. So if Raja's doing it, I guess it's right. But we're going to see Urza Saga here from Benjamin in a passing of the turn. Does Benjamin have the third land, though? That is the question.
Yeah, Flooded Strand, I think.
Okay, all right. So we got, we have a Scalding turn too. Okay, our Baubles drew some lands. And yeah, now we have Activate the Sagas again. Just like game one, then provide some powerful pressure. And then we have Teferi Time Reveler to follow up after these sort of provide a little bit of pressure. And yeah, just getting the Zagoth Triumph here for Raja. Got full 5 colors for Leyline Binding.
Yeah, small thing. I might consider fetching Upkeep. Obviously, you know that Raja doesn't have the Wear Tear now, but because he would have main phased it, but just to make sure that he doesn't draw it, I think I maybe like Upkeep fetching, because if Raja says go and you crack the fetch and you get the Saga response Saga, Wear Tear Saga, that's maybe a little rough for you.
Agreed, 100%. We do see a Castle of Interest here from Raja. Benjamin and Benjamin's team shaking in the boots now that in multiple turns, Raja could look at the top 2 cards and put them on bottom.
Only 2 turns away from death is what you're saying.
Yeah, I mean, how could you ever win if your opponent in Modern scryed 2 for only 4 mana? It's a steal. It's a steal. I'll say it. I feel like it's an MH2 card, personally. Makes sense. It's Eldraine. Am I right?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. We have a Hollowed Fountain coming up here. And yeah, activate Urza's Construct.
The joke is they banned the wrong card, right? They should have left Oko. They didn't ban the castle. What are they doing?
Yeah, that's true. Well, I mean, with the castle, you could find your Okos more consistently. So it's really just shows like what were they thinking when they did that? Now you can find your Minsk and Booze more consistently.
Oh boy, we're playing Castle Vantress and Legacy.
Might as well. Yeah, drew an Odawara. Got a lot of lands here for Benjamin. If you're a fan of Raja and Friends, you're kind of loving to see it. Yeah.
A token. We're second. Where are we getting?
I would guess Springleaf Drum, but I could be wrong.
Yeah, postboard, there are a little bit more options depending on, if Benjamin decided to go towards those. Could get like a Soul Guide. I guess that's really it. That's the other cantrip, but yeah. Probably just wants maybe just wants mana, especially do you even want the mana?
Yeah, you have a lot of lands. My thought was maybe on the combo turn, but maybe it just doesn't matter. So we're just gonna grab a Bauble and get a redraw. I'm a big Springleaf Drum fan. In this deck only. I hate it everywhere else. But this deck, I like it. As we get Bauble here, Bauble fetch, attack for 3. And we do see the Leyline Binding coming down for a single mana.
Yeah, and Raja has the combo. That's just, oh man, I love the combo. That's basically Splinter Twin, right? Teferi plus Leyline Binding.
Oh yeah, 100%. 100%. And ooh, geez, the mind sculptor off the top. Now,
Oh
we've seen
boy.
Raja be really conservative in the way in which he deploys his threats, and kind of develops his mana, and then with all these answers will do it. So we probably won't see this for another turn. But
True.
Benjamin is going to feel forced to push through because this is kind of what happens against a control deck, right? You feel forced to win the game before they get something like that. Raja already has it rolled up, and he's kind of just like a snake waiting to strike.
Well, to be fair, Raja already has his win condition in play, right?
Yeah, it's Castle Vantress.
Right.
That's why Benjamin has to go. Castle Vantress costs 1,000,000 mana, but it is on the board, so you have to start cacking.
Yeah.
It looks like we drew an Urza Saga for turn, and this is the one turn we kind of have before we're going to be committing a bunch of mana, so we might see an attack, and then maybe something like a Teferi Time Raveler, which will 1,000% get countered, but maybe you save Time Raveler and try and overload the mana on a single turn. If you wait one turn, Raja can't Castle Vantress and counter, so...
I think Benjamin has a dispute, so you could maybe try to go for Teferi Dispute your counterspell, and that might work.
Yeah, it might, especially if Raja tries to use Archmage's Charm in order to save some mana so later he can Castle Vantress. Ooh. No, jokes aside about Vantress.
always got to be thinking 3 turns ahead with the Castle Vantress lines.
What to do if not Castle you? And it looks like if it was good in chess, it had to be good here. I think we have double counterspell from Raja, so we might just see counterspell.
True. Yep. Okay. Yeah, that's a very heads-up play, aware of the dispute, aware the dispute is a possibility. So rather than go for Archmage's Charm and get got by the dispute, heads up, just goes for the counterspell. Make sure that this Teferi doesn't hit the board because Rasha's like he just has so many threats. That's the word that I'm looking for. Yeah, what more threats? So, like the Jace has, I think he has Teferi too, has the castle. So 2 Teferis, yeah. So just wants to make sure that he can kind of keep the board clear as much as possible. So we might see something like Teferi maybe bounce the construct token, but then you can't hold up the Archmage's Charm. So
yeah, the nice part about Teferi is you can just get a land off it. It looks like we're light on lands.
True.
So now we remove the threat and maybe rip a land. All right, so we had 1 land left. Okay, so that's definitely the last land in hand, and we get a passing of the turn here. Raja does have counterspell, but Benjamin has Urza Saga, so we can try and blink that mana, or we can try and have a bait thing and see if it resolves because Raja wants to play around something else and then slowly progress the board here. Benjamin drew an Underworld Breach. That's big.
Okay, that's a good draw step. I don't know if he has a grinding station, but
I don't think he does. I think though, if this gets countered, we might see Breach to just bobble like 5 times.
Okay, all right.
Draw 5, yeah.
Kind of like just a 2-mana ancestral.
Yeah, it looks like I believe that's counterspell.
Any idea what is that actual counterspell? No, that's Aether Gust.
Oh, it's Aether Gust. Oh,
yeah.
I've never seen that Aether Gust before.
Yeah, I haven't either, but with the motion that Benjamin was making, I kind of I haven't seen that one either. I don't know where that's from.
Maybe it's like a Sword Champ thing. I don't know. Regardless, Raja looks like has Jace the Mind Sculptor. No land, does have Force Negation as well, and is staring down this Urza Saga. You could scry too.
Do you think that Benjamin would concede the game if Raja scries too? It's pretty close.
Yeah, it would be really insulting. It looks like Connor is asking to see the graveyard. So we see Benjamin kind of, moving across the table. Raja getting a little Gatorade yellow action. Yellow Gatorade, obviously the goat of the Gatorade, so it makes sense.
I'm not into the yellow one. I'm into blue Gatorade.
Well, I would consider working on that because the yellow is the goat. That's why he has Castle Vantress and he has the yellow Gatorade. He knows what's up.
That's why he's in the finals.
That's why he's in the finals, baby. He's got that RCQ invite here. He's locked it on up. Yellow Gatorade. That's the juice. And looks like Jace the Mind
Going after Jace. This is an interesting Jace because we know that the Saga token's there, and the Saga token makes a second token and finds an artifact. So,
we can bottom off the Fate Seal.
To ship the iteration. Okay. Yeah, I like that.
And now, the Jace is probably not going to die. It's going to be really hard for you to generate that unless you have your 1 Galv Blast. So this could be a great position here for Raja. And it might actually end up with us having to kill the Teferi 3 because we have this mystical dispute in hand. And then if we do that, Jason's in
Right,
play.
and even if Benjamin has another artifact, right? You go make a token that's 2, token of or artifact of the saga that's 3, artifact in hand that's 4. That still doesn't touch the Jace. So
Yeah. And then Jace can unsummon a saga, which shrinks the other saga too, so it's kind of free. The other token, sorry, from the saga. Yeah, it's looking kind of rough for Benjamin here.
yeah, but obviously didn't help that Benjamin mulled the 5, but yeah, this is getting it's slipping. It's slipping for
Yeah.
sure.
It's gonna be a hard road out of here, but the breach deck can do it. If any deck in Modern can, this is the deck with the highest Parmesan little cheese factor. Dash the Ragavan. You like that? You like that little Parmigiano? I can see it. Yeah,
Yeah, okay. The Ragavan does give us enough to hit the Chase. That's
yeah,
5.
that's big.
That is massive.
Yeah, and it looks like we finally.
Yeah, you have to go after the Jace.
Yeah, and Raja faking a Solitude. It's like we're when you have a Leyline Binding, you have to imagine it. But Solitude is something that at least makes sense to think about.
Right.
And yeah, Benjamin's like, okay, I've got these threats. There are many like them, but these are mine. What should we do? And a subtlety off the top for Raja. Oh my goodness.
Would have been good last turn because
Would've been-
I think Raja would have instantly subtlety that Ragavan.
Agreed. Also, looks like Benjamin does have Delirium. It's also got a text message. His friend saying, "How are you going to beat that Castle Vantress, homie?" Benjamin's like, "That's outside assistance, Judge. I didn't ask for it." And then Raja's over here thinking, I could scry to you. Always got to keep the options open.
Raja played that Castle Vantress on turn 2, and I'm actually kind of shocked that Benjamin just didn't concede right there. So,
aren't we all? Ragavan in hand here. We do have a subtlety that we can hard cast for Raja, so we might see that as a hard cast here, which actually gives you a blocker to eat the construct. Now, Benjamin might have some artifact in hand that can grow them out of that range, but if you're Raja, it looks like a pretty good lineup. You're choked on mana. You've got to use it somehow.
right, and you want to protect the Teferi as well. Kind of hoping that Benjamin doesn't have an artifact here, so you can at least threaten the Solitude for a construct trade. And yeah, it looks like Benjamin's just kind of okay with that. So, I assume you probably want to take the trade at this point. Just, I guess not. I'm kind of worried, like maybe down the road, if another artifact gets played. That's kind of why I wanted the trade there. And there's the Hall. The Hall is actually massive for Benjamin.
Really big. Also worth noting, I think Raja is trying to maybe line up a blowout situation with Archmage's Charm, and as he's falling further behind, he's taking higher risk lines, which is what you need to do in these sort of positions. As you start to fall behind, you do something. Underworld Breach. Raja has Force Negation in hand, so Raja can pitch, but I'm not even sure. I mean, I guess Benjamin for sure has Bobble like 3 times as a play.
Right, and I wonder if he's making this play because he has the Hall, so he figures maybe he could just go for kind of a value breach, and then later in the game, eventually get to a point where you can haul back the breach once it's actually lethal.
100%. I wonder if we're supposed to breach before combat because you could bring back the baubles to do threat not getting eaten by the subtlety, but hard to know. Raja has shown an extreme amount of patience in all these games, so maybe getting Raja, to wait till later is kind of what you're supposed to do. And Raja talking to Connor, we see here once again Connor plays a bunch of the breach decks. So know what's up. We're gonna pitch Archmage's Charm and Mystical Dispute on the Force Negation.
Wow!
Okay. Benjamin set a trap, and Raja was like, "I would like to eat it," and it was good. And
Oh boy,
we're gonna see baubles for sure. Oh, there's multiple baubles. Okay. So you have multiple baubles that are drawn later, so you can maybe use one now, but also they grow our constructs into 5/5s with all the baubles. So we get to draw once the constructs are dead and sort of regas that way, and then now just threaten lethal over the next 2 turns. Wow.
yeah, that was what an absolute. This is what we call the House of Cards went falling down for Raja. Looked so good for him. Had the Teferi, had the Jace, had the Solitude in hand, and just very well navigated from Benjamin. Just really good sequencing, and eventually get to set up this exact turn And worth noting, the subtlety did not get disputed. So
Mm-hmm.
making to that, which was actually, I didn't even realize that Benjamin had the dispute. I wonder, way interesting. He could have, because he could have fought over the subtlety to get the Ragavan in there.
Yeah,
So
100%. Looks like though he had much bigger plans, and honestly, kind of worked, right? It
oh yeah.
got Raja to go for it. Like obviously, you would have Solitude like I maybe blah 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 blah. I showed you a Solitude last turn right when we were tanking, and so looks like we're checking to see here cards in exile. I don't think we can bring back another bobble. I do think we would leave a bobble in play, the last one if we could. So just got 2 bobble triggers here. Galv Blast and something big draw. Galv Blast actually clearing the subtlety kind of super matters, especially as this Teferi comes down and answers one of the constructs.
Right, chat pointing out, I obviously missed that. Teferi was in the battlefield pre-combat because this was after combat. It's getting late, chat. I'm sorry, but yeah, no, you're right. So we couldn't fit over the subtle, excuse me, the
How
subtlety.
dare you miss something? I bet you didn't even think about if Raja could scry an upkeep. Me and chat were talking about this a second ago.
Well, I did think about
Okay,
that.
all right. Well, at least you're not washed. If you had forgot that, then I'd have to talk to Norm about getting someone new for tomorrow. But if you were thinking about the Castle of Interest, we can forgive you this time, but only this time. Maybe we need to start a poll in chat. Can we forgive Devin? Yes or no? Anyways, we've got a Windswept Heath on the
chat's gonna vote no.
Yeah, they are. As we've got a Plains probably here from the deck. Maybe we'll have a Shockland. I imagine it's just the Plains though. Yeah. Surprisingly, didn't actually have that much white, only 2 before this. So
looks like we have some castle enjoyers in chat. So to the castle enjoyers, Mason, what would you say to them?
As we see Raja attack for 3 with subtlety, that's a big sign. I know you have a construct in play. I know you have cards. 3 you. Raja knows this game is starting to get out of hand and needs to start working towards winning it.
Yeah, this is really interesting game for sure. This has been a really good back and forth. And yeah, we see the cards generated off the bobble. Now, to be fair, it does take a little bit of time for Benjamin to kind of set up the engine of the haul to where the point where you can start, hauling and also being able to cast spells in the same turn. So maybe a little bit of ways away from that, but Raja doesn't have a lot of time here.
Raja grabbing the peanut M&M, ready to game. With the peanut M&M and the Castle of Antris advantage, I have to think that even though it looks like Raja's going to lose, that he will not. As we do see an Emery here. And in Mill's Grape Shot, EE, we did see the EE come in. All right. Benjamin's got the heads up on the Chalice. We have a Galv Blast in hand, and I wonder how close are we to Galv Blast kind of actually killing? Because next turn, Emery brings back an artifact. That makes it 10 for Raja. Then you're at 6. It kind of matters. Getting pretty close.
We can't be that far off. Yeah, that's true.
Obviously, we need 2 more artifacts before that. Oh, and Leyline Binding hits the Emery. Whatever. There's Leyline Binding next to it. We agree. We move on with our lives. Raja leaving up Castle of Interest mana. Decides to forego it again. Plays Kahira. Attacks for 4 with the Subtlety. Actually huge. I know we were memeing, but this is actually so huge because
it is. Yeah, it really shortened the clock. Right?
Yeah, 2 whole turns are just taken off the clock there because of that 1 damage. Now we have Underworld Breach drawn here, and we have Galv Blast to kill the Kahira, but we are running low on time. So if Raja,
what Raja's last card is?
I have no clue.
Keeping it pretty close to the chest. I mean, if it's a counter spell,
I think it's an island. It was blue for sure. Blue for sure. I mean, honestly, you can kind of breach and Grape Shot here and just kill the creatures. Like you Galv Blast the Kahira, and then you cast a Bauble, and then you cast a Grape Shot, and then Subtlety's dead, and it's not great, but at least you're not under pressure. Although you do unlock Castle of Interest for Raja if you do that, which is brutal.
I'm trying to think with Raja at 12. I'm trying to think how far away we're away from just burning him out. I guess we don't have Metalcraft, so yeah, we're probably a little ways away.
I like this starting with Wear Tear because it's kind of free. It costs you 1 mana, but the card you get back from memory is actually up 1, which means you might get closer to the combo as well. So, like starting off with getting rid of the Leyline Binding also builds that pivotal storm count in case you do Grape Shot this turn. And yeah, it looks like we could probably put a Bauble in play for sure. I guess we know we have 2 Baubles in the graveyard from earlier. So the Gallop Blast is on if we want it. And if you've gotten this far, you have to assume Raja doesn't have the counter spell. Like Raja probably would have stopped the breach from happening, and if not the breach, then protecting the Emery. Since you only had the 1 white.
Right, for sure. Oh yeah, 100%. So yeah, definitely you can kind of assume at this point that you're kind of just good to go. I don't think Benjamin's going to be able to kill this turn. I guess maybe might get a couple extra looks at the station because that's really all we're missing is the station. But I don't think there's an Emery in the graveyard. I think we have like a bunch of red cards. So Heats, Wear Tears, another Breach. So yeah, I don't.
We have a weird line. We can Unholy Heat our own Emery.
Oh, and run it back and
replay
get
it.
4 more
Yeah.
looks. Okay.
Yeah, so you need to play the Bauble first, so it only costs 1. But if you're really trying to go in on the combo, you could high roll the Amber and the Grinding Station. I don't think we're going to see that from Benjamin, but it is a play available. And Benjamin was looking at everything, so that might have been what we're thinking about as we now are slamming with this construct. It's a 3/3. Subtlety is a 4. You have to wonder.
Oh, yeah, I love this attack.
Yeah, like, oh, what's going on here?
Love it.
Yeah. Raja's debating, it has been 12 hours. Benjamin's pretty tired. Maybe this is actually an attack where I have to block with subtlety. Also, maybe I can't win if I don't block, you know? So I imagine, though, with Raja actually having some closeness to lethal, we're not going to see a block, but you might see Raja kind of slip here.
Right, that's the thing is, I feel like Raja's not that Raja's not that far enough from death where you can probably afford to just take 3 here, because the other thing is like Benjamin kind of wants to pick up Gigantha, but really can't afford to because if you pick up Gigantha, you're leaving yourself open to just removal spell, kill you, attack for 7. So you still have to, you kind of still force the removal spell out of Benjamin here, where you know kind of has to kill the Kahira to buy a turn. But yeah, no, I think I like the no block here from Raja.
Yeah, I think that's the line, and we'll probably see Benjamin here just Gallop Blast to answer probably the subtlety, because you maybe just want to block with Emery too. It's kind of the world's your choice there. I guess you definitely want to kill subtlety if you're going to kill one, because subtlety is unblockable in your deck because you're not playing Letter Shredder. Oh. And we just killed Raja. So Raja didn't block because we looked like there was exile. So Raja went to 8. We Gallop Blasted, sacrificed both Mystery Bauble, enough cards to escape.
Grape Shot.
Holy moly. Double Gallop Blast to the moon. Wow.
I forgot about the Grape Shot.
Yeah, the way that we couldn't quite see everything in the graveyard. I thought that Benjamin had used the rest of his graveyard to put the 2 Baubles in play. But this, oh my goodness. What a play from Benjamin. And that was the Mold of 5 game. We did it.
That was the Multi-5 game. Yeah, Benjamin navigated that very well. That Hall of the Hall was pretty good, and just really navigated it, just being able to make those good exchanges, like that one turn where we saw where there was the mystical dispute to resolve. After attack. Dash the Ragavan, attack in combat, Teferi died, and then set up that dispute turn. That was just a really, really well played turn and a well played game for Benjamin. And we got ourselves a game 3 for all of the marbles.
Yeah, it's a wild one to see. I mean, can you believe that Raja played Castle Vantress on turn 3 and lost that game? Like, whew.
No, it was turn 2, right?
No, it was turn 3. Went Triumph.
Was it?
Yeah.
Okay. Turn 3 castle.
Oh yeah, have some respect for the castle.
Can you believe that he didn't activate that castle once? I can't believe it.
Honestly, it kind of explains why I lost. If you had activated the castle, you would have so much card advantage from scrying bottom because your deck's full of cards that are putting with bottom. But Raja's so goated that he can win with them. No, but jokes aside, seriously, incredibly well played. Also, incredibly well played from Raja. We saw Raja be stuck on mana. And that was the kind of the choke point that we've kind of been highlighting. What are the choke points in this game? What's going on? And Benjamin was able to set up that amazing Underworld Breach into Mystical Dispute turn that had Raja fight over it, run out of cards in hand, and then by the time he drew mana, it was too late. And that is something, we talked about in the sideboarding going to game 2. We're like, maybe you want Spell Pierce, maybe you don't. You kind of have to fight those early fights. And there are a lot of times where Roger's going to have to use 2 counter spells. So having Spell Pierce, as long as it doesn't turn, 12 or whatever, is going to actually maybe line up really well.
Right, for sure. Yeah. So, yeah, wonder what we're thinking about here. Players are, and we're taking bathroom.
Little bathroom break. Well, we've been drinking the yellow Gatorade. That's the best Gatorade.
True.
Yeah, I
That's
feel
true.
you there. So
True.
Yeah. Well, we're here in this moment. Oh, okay. Maybe we
We're
just
back.
stepped aside. Oh, maybe there was like an Oracle text
In
question
something.
or whatever. Yeah.
True.
What's the Oracle text on, Aether Gust? I don't know. There's got to be something. But yeah, pretty interesting. Both players have played really well to get here at this point. We've had some really awesome matches, and it's been really cool to kind of see. And these players get to battle it out again tomorrow morning, just like you viewers can watch. We have a, I believe, 10 a.m. start time, East Coast time. It is daylight savings, so if you're in the United States, hey, you get an extra hour of sleep tonight. It's roll back. That's exciting for everybody. But that means you get to wake up well rested and join Devin and I in the booth tomorrow for more NRG action. It's going to be a Pioneer 5K trial. So that is going to be exciting because, like you mentioned so much, this is the last big tournament before DreamHack Atlanta. And that's where all eyes are on that. That is going to be release weekend for Brothers War. A lot of other RCs play off that one. And it's the first time we'll see someone in an open field qualify for the Pro Tour, which it feels so crazy because it feels like we've been in the system for a while. It was announced back in June, but it's just now getting to the point where players are getting qualified who weren't already qualified via, Mythic Championship type stuff.
Right, yeah, and like you said, the Brothers War is going to be shaking up things quite a bit. There's a couple of cards that I have my eyes on. We've been talking about them over the course of the day here, and yeah, there's just taking a quick look at the kind of the breakdown. So the top 8 had 1, 2, 3, 4, I think 5 mono green decks, Phoenix, Spirits, and Greasefang. So, I kind of what you would expect. It, more than half of the top 8 being mono green, and yeah, it's
Clip it. We
just
got Benjamin's
there's
phone password. I'm sorry, continue.
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
I was like, wait, what's
We've been
going
on,
on
we've
here?
on
What did I
camera for
miss?
too long. I had to
see.
meme a little bit.
Leaking the DMs. We're
Oh,
leaking
dang.
the DMs now.
Ants?
But yeah, lots and lots of mono green, and it is the best deck, so and not totally surprised to see that. And maybe in team events it's a little bit different too, because your teammates are like, well, maybe I play this deck that has like a really good matchup against green, but I'm bad against this deck, and your teammates are like, well, why would you gamble? Just play green. You know what I mean? And so I think maybe it's different in team events, but yeah, green is definitely the best deck, and probably will be the best deck heading into the RC.
Yeah, we're talk about this ad nauseum tomorrow, so get ready for that. But yeah, it's gonna be interesting too. There are some new players. We've seen the Fires Intervention deck. We've seen the Gruul Boat deck, or vehicles, maybe if you want to call it that. I know a lot of players are higher on that, so maybe we're gonna catch one of them in the early rounds tomorrow and see if they can make the gauntlet. Also, we see Zach Allen on Twitter tweeting about an Esper control deck in Pioneer. I'm getting a lot of rancid emojis in response to that one, but maybe we'll see Zach Allen just crush it just like Roger here. But we're into the last game of the finals, game 3, and it's a turn 1 Ragavan for Benjamin. I also love that chat is having issues with fallback spring forward. We all do. We just have to get rid of daylight savings time. Anyways, Ragavan entering the battlefield.
Just pretend that we're all living in like Antarctica or something. I don't think, do they have daylight savings time in Antarctica? I don't have
daylight savings time is like an us thing. Do you know there are states that don't use daylight saving time, like Arizona? They don't follow daylight savings time. Yeah, really? Indiana doesn't have it until a few years ago. Just a little fun fact from the coverage team. Daylight savings time is literally a like we talk about time as a construct. It's literally a construct of our government. Anyways, Chalice of the Void is the draw. We can play it on 1. We can play it on 0. A couple options. What are you thinking, Devin? We also have Dovin's Veto.
With the Ragavan already in play, maybe don't want to do it for 1. But also, like, if you're not going to cast it for 1, you can probably hold it, because, like, you probably maybe just to hold off, like, Mishra's Baubles and Mox Ambers and stuff, so I kind of like 0 better. Especially if you want to hold up, like, a Veto for a Teferi on turn 2.
Yeah, it's so hard. I wonder if the play is just wait. Like, we've seen that patience from Raja, just like, hey, it could be good now, but I can wait and get a little more information and kind of sculpt my game around it. Looks like Raja is going to go for the 0. Probably just best to do that if you're afraid of like a turn 2 Emery coming in and Ragavan into the red zone, flip a card. It's a big one. If it flips on like the Fairy Time Raveler, that could be huge. And it flips Counterspell. Not a great one to play, but a great one to, essentially kill.
Right, and the counter spell actually could have been relevant here. So maybe if Benjamin, like say had an Emery, which he does have, and drew a 0, you could have seen. Well, I guess with the Saga it's different, but you could have seen maybe Blue Source 0 and then Emery with counter spell backup. Obviously, with the Chalice and the fact that the Lanta Saga, that's not an option. But
yeah, and we're gonna get passing on the turn here. We have a Urza Saga trigger happen, nothing there. No marches in the deck, I believe, is anyways. But yeah, also, this is kind of why this is maybe the best deck in Modern when it comes to Jeskai Breach. Look at all the powerful cards we're playing, and look how mana efficient our deck is. We have this Ragavan into Urza Saga. We have Treasure to like use extra things. We have things like Spell Pierce, Mystical Dispute to fight over stuff. And we also have a combo finish, which is just like the icing on the cake. Decks like Murktide are great and totally reasonable things to play, but not having that combo finish is something that is way, way different in matchups like this, where the Murktide matchup versus Blue-White is very good for Blue-White. That's what Raja wants to play against kind of all day.
yeah, I know people like to throw around the S word a lot, but I think this feels a lot like Splinter Twin, where you have that aspect of just being able to play this kind of interactive game. Maybe it's a little bit more. The threats are different, obviously, than Splinter Twin was back in the day, but it kind of has that same feel to it, where you're playing a bunch of cheap threats and you're kind of making your opponent answer stuff that isn't your combo, and then you're eventually like, oh well, I just have a combo.
Okay, looks like we're gonna have a Wear Tear on the Urza Saga and upkeep. Worth mentioning too, Raja does have Archmage's Charm in hand, so the Ragavan might not stay on this side of the board forever. And this is an interesting moment too, because Benjamin doesn't get the mana, has to fight over it with the mana if he's going to fight, and then maybe just ends up dying. It doesn't matter.
Header's not on top. One anyways, so
yeah,
we call that the Wear Tear bug. I was just going to say that.
Oh, we hit something. I think
the blue card. I think it's a Dress Down.
Oh yeah, we're just casting it to draw a card.
Yeah.
I love it
as well, right? Cycle.
Yeah, we hit a bobble, kind of nice.
Chalice.
Oh, nice.
Good Chalice check.
I think we just forgot, but yeah, reasonable place to be. Honestly, it's in the graveyard. Kind of works for escape. Who's to say it wasn't just the perfect play? I wonder if Raja's deck could play Hall of Generosity. We see Benjamin using it to good effect here, but Raja has Dress Down and stuff like that. Maybe there's something to that. I don't know.
I mean, what are you going to do? Cut the Castle Vantress? You can't do that.
Yeah, don't even suggest doing that. You're already on thin ice for making a mistake earlier in the broadcast and not knowing perfectly. So, not trying to throw away around too much, but gotta be careful, my friend. Speaking of gotta be careful, Raja's gotta be careful of this Urza Saga Ragavan split threat again. We're up a mana on where we were last turn, and we do have a Archmage's Charm in order to steal the Ragavan if we want to. But if we do that, maybe Urza Saga will take over the game. And we do have that Dovin's Veto for when the time finally comes. And this is, both decks, obviously, incredibly hard to play. Saga, Breach, one of the most skill-intensive and, sequencing-intensive decks in Modern that isn't a fringe deck. And, both players playing for 12 hours today, they've got to be exhausted. And you get down to these final wire moments, you're always going to take a little longer, and it's always a little harder to be like, okay, well, what's the play? What do we play around? Decision fatigue is a real thing.
Right, for sure. So yeah, Raja has a couple of options here. I think that's a Planeswalker in front, but I can't quite make out what that is. Maybe it's a fairy. It's hard to tell. We saw Veto, the charm that you had mentioned. So a couple of options here. Could maybe go for stealing the Ragavan, but maybe is worried about the Saga constructs kind of taking over at that point. But maybe wants to save the charm for a Saga at that point, which have to see what Raja wants to do here. So what do you got, Raja?
Looks like Raja has a tap land. Can't be Castle Vantress, then that didn't untap. We have plenty of islands.
True. All right, it is Teferi.
And Spell Pierce.
Dispute?
I think it was Spell Pierce because.
Okay.
Yep. Get to save Dispute too if we have that.
That's a massive beating because now we go Saga to Chapter 2, hit with Ragavan. Wow, this is a really good sequence for Benjamin.
Yeah, we flipped Force Negation 2. Now, we maybe wanted Raja to draw that with the way our hands currently set up, but it is one less counterspell we have to work through.
Right, especially if we end up going for a breach line. Question here is Benjamin, does Benjamin have a land? And we don't need a land because we have the treasure tokens, but obviously, missing a land drop and then losing the saga next turn. Okay, it does have the land, so.
Yeah. And I think Benjamin had Teferi Time Raveler in hand. Now, probably going to wait because you want the saga value, but that's going to be an important card here in the coming turns. And Raja still has that Archmage's Charm. We finally drew the 5th land or get to deploy it. So now we can Charm with Veto up. We can also pick up Kahira. If we have Solitude, that's a play to us. So we're starting to turn the corner a little bit, but the pressure is on. Raja can win from these sort of positions, but there's a lot of onus on it. And losing things like our 1 dress down make it a lot harder to beat these Urza Saga tokens.
Yeah, and obviously Benjamin knows that there's only 1 copy of Dress Down. That's been exiled. Well, in Raja's graveyard, but it basically can't get it back. So not having to play around that is pretty massive, because that's kind of one of the ways that Raja can kind of get back out from under the multiple saga constructs. Not having access to that is pretty big. I mean, obviously I think there's one, what would we say, 1 Supreme Verdict in the 75. So
1.
we have to maybe imagine Raja brought that in. So that he does have access to, but that another avenue has been removed from him.
Also worth mentioning, there's a lot of treasures in play. So these constructs are all 5/5s and growing, right? Because if we take the Ragavan with the Archmage's Charm, maybe we can chump block the Saga, or maybe you take the Saga and then it can trade with the Ragavan. But you're still in kind of a really weak, weird, and awkward place, and you're gonna have to figure out how to get out from underneath it. You're gonna see an attack here for 9.
Massive pressure
Or
here.
7,
So
sorry.
I kind of assume it. You kind of have to steal the one that's attacking. I don't even think you can afford to steal the Ragavan.
Oh no,
Oh
and a
my god!
mystical dispute, so
Well,
backbreaking.
we
We do
can
have the
veto
Dovid's
that.
veto,
Yeah.
but having to use the veto here when you're already making a desperation play, we might have a
Is
spell
there
pierce on
another
the
counter
charm.
spell? Oh my
So
god!
Raja loses the counter war. Upside will take 2 less damage. You're only going to take 5 here, down to 7 to get another treasure and get a card off the top. I think that's a Leyline Binding just got exiled, which we cannot play for Benjamin, but pretty big. And once again, the Breach deck just shows why it is so strong and one of the best decks in Modern. That mana efficiency is so extreme and so brutal.
So we get a binding and a plains for Raja. So can answer one of the constructs not technically dead. But yeah, there's just so many things that Raja has to deal with. The 2 constructs, the Ragavan, there's a breach in Benjamin's hand. There's so many things going on. And this breach deck just like you said, just being able to present so many different threats and that require very different answers,
And Benjamin's like, look at me. I'm the counterspell deck now. And to just kind of put Raj in this terrible position, looks like we picked up Kahira and we're going to Leyline Binding one of the artifacts. And oh my goodness. Are we going to cast Wear
What's
Tear?
happening.
Oh, so we get to keep the construct. Just like,
Yeah,
yeah.
trigger on
and
the stack.
I do think Raja is dead. And that's it. Benjamin wins.
That's it.
Team
That's
of
lethal.
Benjamin, Aren, Saralyn
Wow.
win. Congratulations to them for winning the NRG 10K today in Fort Wayne. Wow, what great play. It's awesome. My hair's messed up. It threw me off. It was so much. It just, wow. The Breach deck, once again, overperforming in every single avenue in Modern. Probably one of the decks to beat, and Benjamin here showed why. On a mulligan to 5, overcame it, won those matches still. And then also in that game, kind of showed like, hey, yeah, my deck can win on a mull to 5. That's cool. But also, watch what happens if I have all the good stuff that my deck produces. And Benjamin didn't even need all of it. Even if that Wear Tear hadn't gone through, Benjamin still would have been in a commanding position, and shows just why the Breach deck is one of the decks to beat. So congratulations once again to that team for their victory here today and taking home the trophy, the hardware. They refused to, they had to play for the trophy. We had to figure out if someone got it, and they got it. So congratulations to them. Go up on their mantle. And once again, so cool to have your team tournament with your friends. And you get to always look back on that trophy and be like, we won that day. We did it. And so a really awesome moment.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and like you said, the breach deck probably one of, if not the best decks in the modern format right now because it attacks from so many different angles. It's very efficient. We saw both players play incredibly well. That match was just very well played from both sides. Just eking out all the percentage points that they could possibly come up with. Raja just played so phenomenal all day, as well as Benjamin. And like you said, congratulations to Benjamin's team.
100%. Well, I believe that is going to do it for our broadcast today. Thank you all so much for joining us. Hey, if you haven't already, make sure to click that follow button. That way you don't miss any Paper Magic coverage over here at the NRG series. We'd love to have you. I know we just hit 15,000 followers today. That's super awesome. So make sure to do that. That way you won't miss tomorrow, 10 a.m. We're going to have round one of our Pioneer 5K. It's going to be a big event. You have Devin and I in the booth at the start of the day. So you're not going to want to miss that. And we'll see you all tomorrow for that.